When you picture Oxford, you likely see this, an ancient, peaceful sanctuary of learning, defined by these iconic domes and soaring spires. It is a center of immense prestige. Students walking these halls have become 28 British prime ministers and over 70 Nobel Prize winners. It is the intellectual home of minds like Stephen Hawking. For centuries, this place has represented the absolute peak of elite academia. But looking at these quiet quads doesn't tell the full story. For 1,000 years, this city has been a battleground for class and power. In 1934, private developers built a 9-foot-high brick wall, topped with revolving iron spikes, right through the middle of a residential street. Its specific purpose was to trap working-class residents in a council estate, physically segregating them from the wealthy private homes on the other side. Oxford is not a single entity, but two colliding worlds, the working-class town and the elite gown. For 1,000 years, their struggle defined the city's identity and ultimately drove its most significant achievements. Before the scholars arrived, Oxford was entirely practical. In the 8th century, it was a muddy river crossing where Saxon settlers herded their livestock across the water. The Norman conquest turned this simple town into a military stronghold. William the Conqueror ordered the construction of Oxford Castle and St. George's Tower to intimidate and control the local population. By the 12th century, wealthy scholars began gathering in the shadow of that fortress. To the locals, these early students were rowdy, arrogant tenants who drove up housing rents and operated above the law. This dynamic was parasitic from the start. While the locals worked for their living, these privileged young men treated the town like a playground, laying the foundation for centuries of violence. On February 10, 1355, that tension reached a boiling point at the Swindlestock Tavern. Two students argued with the landlord over the quality of his wine and threw drinks in his face. That dispute exploded into a 3-day urban war. Townspeople and scholars fought through the streets with swords and bows, leaving nearly 100 people dead. King Edward III took the university's side, stripping the town's civic rights and transferring control directly to the scholars. As punishment, the mayor attended an annual mass to pay penance. This ritual continued for 470 years. This royal decree cemented the gown's dominance, keeping the working-class town suppressed for centuries. In 1896, the town began asserting its own economic power. A local businessman named William Morris founded Morris Motors in a small garage. Morris Motors transformed the quiet academic haven into a booming industrial city. Thousands of workers flooded in to man the assembly lines, diversifying the local economy. This sudden influx of working-class power terrified the local elites. It was this rapid expansion that led directly to the construction of the Cutteslowe Walls to physically contain the new labor force. Despite the university's ancient authority, industrialization gave the town the population density and economic engine to finally rival the gown. It took the outbreak of World War II to force these two hostile communities to align their efforts. The town provided the physical capacity. The Morris Auto Plant retooled its assembly lines, churning out 50,000 naval mines for the war effort. Simultaneously, the university provided the intellectual output. In a campus laboratory, scientists Howard Florey and Ernst Chain successfully figured out how to purify and mass-produce penicillin. When the industrial capacity of the town and the intellectual resources of the university aligned, their combined output saved millions of lives. The Cutteslowe Walls were finally bulldozed in 1959, but the economic and cultural division they represented remains visible today. You can walk out of an ancient, hyper-wealthy college quadrangle and enter a struggling working-class neighborhood in a matter of minutes. This dual-identity ecosystem reached a new peak during the 2020 pandemic. Scientists at the university developed an effective vaccine, then relied on global manufacturing networks to produce it at scale. The AstraZeneca vaccine is a modern manifestation of Oxford's DNA, high-minded intellectual theory actualized by blue-collar execution. Oxford is a living paradox. It is not great in spite of its messy class conflict, but because of it. It proves that human progress requires